There has been, however, much evidence found, archaeological evidence, to show that the crossing was here and that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia. So there has been a lot of discoveries made that I am excited to share with you. To begin with, God said that He brought them out of Egypt on the very same day that He left. So it says that they left Egypt, that He brought them out of Egypt. The border of Egypt was the Gulf of Suez finger of the Red Sea. Any place the Israelites would have crossed the Gulf of Suez finger of the Red Sea, they would still have been in Egypt. So He said on the very same day He led them out, and they went out of Egypt. So they had to be outside of and past the Suez Canal finger of the Red Sea, or they would have still been in Egypt. Now, it is true that the Egyptians had a presence in the Sinai Peninsula, but their main border ran from the Mediterranean Sea to the Suez finger of the Red Sea and southward. Now, Scripture strongly indicates that they traveled a long time through a wilderness before crossing the Red Sea. Now, this is very key, so pay really close attention. In Exodus 13, it says, and this would be proof that they had to cross the Sinai Peninsula, and they did not stay and they did not cross at the finger of the Red Sea by Cairo, Egypt, or by Goshen. In Exodus 13, it says, "Now when Pharaoh had let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the Philistines," and that was kind of the northern part up there, "even though it was near. For God said that people might change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt." So He didn't lead them north. He led them around the tip of the Suez Canal, or the finger of the Red Sea there by Suez, by Goshen. And then He brought them southeast towards the Red Sea here. So as Scripture says, "Hence God led the people around by the way of the wilderness," now that's key, "to the Red Sea. And the sons of Israel went up in martial array from the land of Egypt. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely take care of you, and you shall carry my bones from here with you. Then they set out from Succoth and camped in Elim on the edge of the wilderness." Between Goshen and the Red Sea is no wilderness, so they were beyond the Suez Canal tip of the Red Sea out into the wilderness. "The Lord was going before them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them on the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, that they might travel," pay really close attention, "so that they might travel by day and by night." So this would mean that they traveled by day and by night. They did not stop. They had a pillar by night, they had a cloud by day, so they were traveling day and night through this wilderness, through the Sinai Peninsula. It says, "He did not take away the pillar of cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people." This would mean the Israelites walked a long way by traveling both day and night. So they traveled a long ways. The Gulf of Suez finger of the Red Sea is right next to Goshen, only about 20 miles. So it says here that they traveled by day and night for a long ways. It's only 20 miles. It just wouldn't fit the biblical narrative. The Sinai Peninsula is a great wilderness and would fit the evidence found at the believed crossing at the Gulf of Aqaba, finger of the Red Sea. So the biblical narrative fits this place here. And research has shown that a person could cross the wilderness in 3 days, traveling day and night by walking just 3 or so miles an hour, which is just a normal walking pace for a person. Scripture also says there were no feeble ones among them, and that He carried them on eagle's wings during their exodus. So on eagle's wings He carried them, and there was no feeble one among them. So a pillar of fire by night, a cloud by day, and they traveled day and night for some period of time till they reached the Aqaba finger of the Red Sea. The crossing of the Red Sea happened several days afterward, so they couldn't have crossed the Gulf of Suez finger of the Red Sea because it is just 20 miles from Goshen. Now Moses would have led the nation of Israel on the main trade route that went from Egypt to Arabia and Midian. However, just before arriving at the northern tip of the Aqaba finger of the Red Sea, God redirected their path so that He might display His glory to Israel, Egypt, and the surrounding nations. Exodus 14:1 provides the details. It says, "Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Tell the sons of Israel to turn back and camp in front of Pi Hatheroth, between Migdol and the sea. You shall camp in front of Baal Zephon, opposite it, by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the sons of Israel, They are wandering aimlessly in the land, the wilderness has shut them in, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will chase after them. And I will be honored through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." And they did so. This explains why they left the main travel route and arrived at the Nuweiba beach of the Aqaba finger of the Red Sea. There has also been found in the Gulf of Aqaba, finger of the Red Sea, in the area of Nuweiba Port, amazing evidence of coral growth on objects that look like old chariot wheels, axles, and so forth. It has been found on the shore across from Nuweiba Port, on the Saudi Arabian side, these same figures. So you can see in this video here, this amazing coral figures that look like axles, that look like chariot wheels, and they're just all strewn out as you go from Nuweiba out into the Red Sea, and then on the shore coming up out of the Red Sea on the Saudi Arabian side as well. Now, you should know that coral doesn't grow in sandy areas. It must have rock or something solid to grow on. And this area where they crossed is just pure sand. So these figures are tremendous evidence of chariot wheels that would have come off from the Egyptians as they pursued the Israelites. The area where the Israelites would have camped is large and can accommodate 3 million people. So this Nuweiba Port here that you can see is huge, and it would easily have accommodated 3 million people. Now, interestingly, the sea in this area, the ocean floor of this part, gradually goes down and then gradually goes up. Just north and south of this area are deep crevices, deep ravines in the ocean floor where the Israelites could not have crossed. So of the Aqaba finger of the Red Sea, there's this perfect spot where it's sandy, goes down gradually, goes up gradually, but it goes down almost a half of a mile down in the ocean. Now, Scripture continually refers to the crossing where the Israelites crossed as the Israelites going down into mighty waters. So this term, mighty waters, is used frequently in Scripture to talk about the crossing where they went into the water. Let's look at a couple of these passages which are staggering. In Exodus 14 it says, "But the sons of Israel walked on dry land through the midst of the sea, and the waters were like a wall to them on their right and on their left." Now Isaiah 51 says, "Was it not you who dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep?" The great deep, the water is very shallow, close to Goshen on the Suez Canal side of the Red Sea. Very shallow, marshes. Here it is deep, so it fits the text. "You led them through the waters of the great deep." Great. Focus on that word, great deep. "Who made the depths of the sea a pathway." The depths, we're talking deep down in the ocean. The depths of the sea as a pathway for the redeemed to cross over. Now the lake beds and marshes by Egypt were certainly not waters of the great deep. They were very shallow marshes. Also, Solomon referred to the Gulf of Aqaba here as the Red Sea in 1 Kings. So he talks about his ships coming here, and he calls this the Red Sea. So this is not a new term. It's a biblical term, this Aqaba, finger of the Red Sea. Now when the Israelites came to the Red Sea at the location of Nuweiba, they were certainly hemmed in, as Scripture says. Scripture says that they were hemmed in. It says in Exodus 14, "But Moses said to the people, 'Do not fear. Stand by and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will never see them again forever. The Lord will fight for you while you keep silent.'" And then the hand of God performed one of the most staggering, greatest miracles ever recorded in Scripture. Think about this, 2.5 to 3 million people crossing an ocean. It's about 8 miles from one side to the other here of the finger of the Red Sea here. So it says in Exodus 14, "Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Why are you crying out to me?'" The Israelites were thinking that they were going to be destroyed by the Egyptians. They're hemmed in, they're panicking, and God says, "Why are you crying out to me, Moses? Tell the sons of Israel to go forward. As for you, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the sons of Israel shall go through the midst of the sea on dry land. As for me, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, so that they will go in after them. And I will be honored through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. Then the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord, when I am honored through Pharaoh, through his chariots and his horsemen." The angel of God, who had been going before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel, and there was the cloud along with the darkness, yet it gave light at night. Thus the one did not come near the other all night. So God provided a supernatural barrier between them that night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord swept back the sea by a strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry land. So the east wind would have come from the Saudi Arabia side, coming into a kind of a headwind to them, because the east is where the dry, arid wind is. So the waters were divided. The sons of Israel went through the midst of the sea on the dry land, and the waters were like a wall to them on their right and on their left. Then the Egyptians took up the pursuit, and all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen went in after them, in after the Israelites, into the midst, once again, midst of the sea. At the morning watch, the Lord looked down on the army of the Egyptians. So it appears that the Israelites crossed over and were over. God removed the barrier, the pillar, and the Egyptians then, God drove them in, supernaturally caused them to come in his sovereignty to display his glory. And so then the Egyptians went into the midst. And it says, at the morning watch, the Lord looked down on the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud and brought the army of the Egyptians into confusion. He caused their chariot wheels to swerve, and he made them drive with difficulty. So the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from Israel, for the Lord is fighting for them against us," they were saying. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may come back over the Egyptians, over their chariots and their horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal state at daybreak, while the Egyptians were fleeing right into it. Then the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, even Pharaoh's entire army that has gone into the sea after them. Not one of them remained. And once again, you can see in this video these chariot wheels and the remains of what God did and how he caused confusion to the Egyptians as they were in the midst of the sea. But the sons of Israel, it says once again, walked on dry land through the midst of the sea, and the waters were like a wall to them. It repeats this over, on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. When Israel saw the great power which the Lord had used against the Egyptians, The people feared the Lord, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. So they had witnessed this astounding miracle, and they are just in a state of fear, a state of awe, a state of reverent fear before God. Now, once again, this coral growth close to the shore across from Nuweiba Port show the same figures of chariot wheels, axes, and so forth as found in the sea close to Nuweiba Port. So once again, as they went in, you see these chariot wheels. As they went out, you see them, then they're just strewn through the bottom of the ocean floor. Now, interestingly, there have been found columns or pillars on the beach of Nuweiba and on the Saudi Arabian side that are believed markers that King Solomon built to mark the crossing of the Red Sea by the Israelites. The pillar on the Nuweiba side has been found and erected, but the pillar on the Saudi Arabian side has been removed by the government and a marker has been placed there. However, Ron Wyatt, who did much investigation about this area, found and documented the pillar on the Saudi Arabian side in the 80s.